Hey, man. Why did you breathe?
Welcome to TILLN.
Welcome to TILLN. What's up?
Oh, not much. I was just wondering, have you ever heard of 536 AD?
536 AD?
Yeah.
Like the restaurant?
Yes. They have really good.
It does sound like a restaurant
shrimp.
where they just serve food and it's like a caveman themed.
Yeah, because they don't understand when cavemans existed.
Well, I guess, yeah, 536. I was thinking
Cavemans.
536. Okay.
536 BC
Still wouldn't
right?
be cavemen.
536 B.
How many
BC,
restaurateurs? How many restaurateurs
before-
do you know that are just like, historically accurate people? I mean, have you been to a dinosaur themed restaurant? No, those things are not historically accurate.
They're pretty accurate to me.
Yeah, to you, I guess. To the uninformed, to the ignorant.
Like, I could do your job if it was fast and air conditioned.
Okay.
That's my mentality for anything.
Do you think we would still do our podcast if the world was ending and the sun didn't come out anymore? Is that your nose or the plague?
Throw them in the river. You're not going to see the sun for 10 yeyears, bro.
Yeah,
10 years.
Yeah. Things I learned last night. You think anybody who works at Rainforest Cafe knows what a rainforest looks like? They couldn't even point to one on a map.
Yeah, because they've seen the Rainforest Cafe.
536 AD. What happened in that specific year?
Oh, a bunch of scientists think it was the worst year to be alive.
Oh, I don't know. We've been alive the last couple ones.
Let's the last couple ones. Let's if you want to, let's take a deep dive. Let's take a look. We'll
To the
compare.
year?
Could we? I wonder if we could put a chart up on the screen.
What do you want to
and
do?
compare
The year was
Compare and
536. Yeah, what did they call it back then? What did they call it in like year 12? They're like, it's 12.
I actually don't know the answer.
Happy New Year! It's 13.
Yeah,
you
the
know?
sunglasses.
I was just saying the glasses. Yeah. How are they doing it?
Yeah, it was just a 2 and a 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be rough. No, so the year 536 AD, it was there's a few things going on.
Okay.
We'll start from the top. It was an interesting era for Rome because about 100 years before that, the capital of Rome, was sacked.
The Rome capital was Rome.
Yeah.
Rome.
Welcome to Rome. It's like New York. That's where New York got the idea from.
They're like, from Rome.
They were like, Rome did it.
They're like, we're New York. Like Rome.
Like Rome. I actually am not certain that the capital was Rome, but we're going with it.
Yeah.
Rome.
Neither is the restaurateur who owns 536 AD.
Welcome to Rome.
That's what they call the little robot surfer they've got that goes around. That's Rome.
That's Rome.
Yeah.
You'll notice he's got Rome built on his back. It's a Roomba. Rome the Roomba.
That's our Roomba.
Rome the Roomba, roaming around the room.
And this is my son. Roman Rome.
Okay, I'm getting tired of this. So somebody.
Let's end it. Fiddle off. Let's end it. Don't keep talking. We're done.
Got it. Okay, good. We're done. Somebody sacked Rome, and then Constantine happened.
Yeah.
Jesus, Constantinople, all that story. If you don't know it, it's in the Bible. It's not in the Bible. Don't try to look it up. And they slowly bounced back, and it became the Byzantine Empire. They were like, it's not Rome anymore. Name it something very different.
Yeah.
But it was still Rome. And then so the Rome's like, we're still alive. We're crawling back for life, but it's really fractured. There's
Yeah,
a bunch
they all
of,
had shirts that say Rome will rise again. They can't take us out.
They can't take us down. They can sack Rome, but they'll never sack Constantinople.
Yeah, but somebody pronounces it Romy.
Romy.
Yeah, this is Romy.
Romy.
And everyone's like, shut up, dude. You don't say that E.
But it was fractured. So the Byzantine
Yeah.
Empire was a bunch of like little almost city states that were like, we're Rome, and everyone's like, but that guy's not Rome.
Yeah.
This is starting to feel really familiar.
No, I was tracking.
And so they're in a rough political climate, right?
Sure.
And then the year 536 happens, and some interesting things happened. And it's been a long road to get here for us to understand what's going on.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a couple hundred years.
There was a lot of writings and archaeological finds, but up until the 90s, nobody paid much attention to how they connected the story.
Like the 1990s?
Yes, sorry. The 590s.
Yeah. No one paid attention to how they connected the story?
Yeah, so there was a bunch of fractured archaeological evidence that pointed to the story of 536 AD and why it was the way it was.
Okay.
But up until the 1990s, it was so disjointed that no one connected those dots of all this evidence.
This is all the same year.
Yeah, this is all in 1 year. And so in the 1990s, things started to come together because there was a group doing core samples of the ice in the Arctic, and they pulled out this core sample, and it looked like this. And they were like, that's weird. Why is it so pixelated? It's in this ice.
Oh, that's weird.
It's very pixelated.
Weird.
If you're listening, basically they took this giant core sample of ice that goes down like 100 feet, and it's just a bunch of normal ice, and then all of a sudden, it's just this really dark, dirty ice, and then like some dim ice.
Dark, dirty ice.
Very dark, dirty ice, and then some dim, dirty ice, and then normal.
Yeah, there's
ice
like
again.
a little ring.
Yeah.
Of just black.
Yeah, of ice. Yeah, it was bad ice. It was the ice goth era. The scientists were like, well, that's peculiar that would happen. So then they started digging more of these cores all around the Arctic, and they kept seeing the same result. So it wasn't like a localized, the ice just got really dirty there for a little bit.
Yeah.
There was something pretty widespread. But
something
there wasn't
happened in the Antarctic.
Yeah, but they didn't have an explanation for this. All these theories started to abound of like comets and volcanoes and tidal waves and a vacuum cleaner that got spilled.
Fishnatoes.
Yeah, the normal scientific theories when they find something weird. Meanwhile, at the same time, there was this dude at Harvard who really likes trees. I don't know why that was so funny to me.
And I gotta hold on. Am I right? Oh, I did realize in the Oregon episode that I said the FDA was the federal Department of Agriculture. It's not. It's the Food and Drug Administration.
Yeah, I let you have it.
Yeah, I was dumb. I realized that later. Like almost immediately after we recorded, I was like, "Oh, it's stupid."
You're like, is it something really dumb?
So he's really into trees. Is that is that
arborists?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Okay.
Arborists.
So an arbor at Harvard. Is what I was trying to say. A Harvard arbor.
A Harvard arbor. The Harvard arbor
was telling his barber. The Harvard arbor was telling his barber.
Yeah, there you go. We just made. Okay, so he was looking at a bunch of tree rings.
I literally was about to make a tree ring joke when I saw that ring of the dirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Well, he was looking at tree rings, and he found there was this period dating back to the same time as those ice rings where the trees were really upset. That's how he said it. That's the words he used. The trees were really upset. And so he studied...
All of this conversation so far sounds like something I would see on Twitter in 2022. Someone who's just like, hey, guys, the trees are sad. If everyone could just like get it together, the trees are like depressed.
In
so
536 AD, there were no happy little trees. Only sad
Why did you desert your dog? First of all, I didn't desert my dog. Okay, I tied it around that tree because that tree needed it as a support animal because that tree was sad.
Support the trees.
Yeah. Same thing I did with my firstborn kid.
Labradoodles for trees. Wait, what?
What? That tree was sad, and I was like, you know what you need is a child.
Your son.
Yeah, I've read the book. Are you the giving tree?
Are you the giving tree? Here's a child.
Here's this child.
Okay, so he noticed that the trees were sad, and so he started taking a whole bunch of trees and looking to see if all the trees were sad. And what he realized was it wasn't just in Europe. It wasn't just in Greenland. It was worldwide. Wherever he found a tree.
Whenever he stumbled across...
He was like, I need to check.
Planted limb.
He just walked around with his axe.
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't contribute to their sadness at all. He's like, this tree I cut down was
This tree I
sad.
cut down is very
Like-
sad.
1,400 years ago. And also now.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you liked it, it would really help us out if you leave a review or a comment on YouTube, if that's what you're watching on. And if you want to check out another episode, I recommend Julianne Kopke. That was an episode all about a woman who survived a 10,000-foot fall from a plane without a parachute. Landed in the Amazon. Absolutely bonkers story. And it was pretty fun. We had a lot of fun, Jaron and I, in that episode. So you should check it out. It's one of my favorites right now. But thanks so much for being here. Well, what he was doing was he was looking at, because here was one thing I thought, was where is he finding all these trees that lived 1,500 years ago? Like still, that are still alive. Because trees...
You don't know how old trees are.
Yeah, trees aren't 1,500 years old.
Yeah, they are.
Some are.
Some are.
Yeah, so I looked it up. So most trees don't live past 100, but there are most species of trees can have the potential to live 1,000+ years.
Yeah, same with people.
And
Most of them.
most of them can't.
Most of them don't.
Most of them don't, but they can.
But there's some people,
There's some.
freaking freaks out there.
I'm really old.
I'm very old. So
but some this.
So he was cutting down pretty big trees then to figure that out. 'Cause,
Well,
I mean, he had to be cutting redwoods and stuff.
Yeah, this is bristlecone pines. They can exceed 3,000 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I went to we went out to General Sherman, like the largest living tree on Earth
Yeah.
in California. And you think it's like, when you're driving up there, you're like, this thing's not going to be worth it because you're winding around. It's pretty stinking worth it.
Really?
Oh, dude, to stand in front of this ridiculous creature that is, I mean, the base of it is wider than our whole back wall.
Really?
Oh, gosh. Dude, it's bonkers.
This is saying that, well, I don't know how old that thing is. How old was that thing?
Like over 2,000 years old.
Dang.
And to look at it and go, this thing was like this tall when Jesus was here.
How's it feel to be so little when Jesus was around?
Yeah.
This thing is saying
I
that.
asked if it knew. I said, did you know? Oh, yeah. Like, what's this one called?
Oh, yeah. Methuselah. Yeah, it's in California, too.
Yeah.
This one is the oldest confirmed age.
Yeah.
And it says it's 4,800 years old.
Yeah. It's old, dude.
That's like older than Egypt.
Yeah. And it looks like it. It looks old.
This looks like an art installation.
I
That's
know.
What that
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like to
If
me.
that tree could talk, it would go, I'm old. It'll kill me, please. Kill me. I don't want to be alive here. Please. Please just chop me down. 536 wasn't the only year I was sad.
Such a sad tree.
I'm a sad tree. Please take me out. Chop me down. Put me out of my misery.
This Harvard arborist is going around cutting up trees and realizing they're all really sad in 536
I don't live in
AD.
California anymore.
Right.
They stinking limbs. They stinking limbs. What if the tree keeps up with politics? 4,800 years old. Freaking boomer.
Why is that the tree's voice?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what a 4,800-year-old person would sound like. Wouldn't sound great.
Probably, yeah. Fair.
What do you think that 48-year-old tree?
48-year-old 100.
48-year-old 100 trees. That's different. Do you think you could kill that one tree or 4,800-year-old trees?
Okay, this is...
So anyway, he's chopping down trees.
He's chopping down trees, and he's finding out they were
now, which that's
all
also
sad.
a different thing too. He's bringing his own hatchet everywhere.
Yeah.
He's just chopping down trees.
Yeah, like what do you do? But he got a lot of data together, got thousands of little trees, and
Okay.
said they're all sad in 536 AD. All the trees were
And
sad
all
in
of us are just like, we got to
536
trust you, I guess.
And so this group of Harvard arborists and Ivy League ice diggers. I was
Yeah.
trying to find a way to do that one. It was tougher.
Ivy icers.
Ivy Icers. The Ivy Icers, they got together, they joined leagues, and they figured out, hey, I think this is connected. because it's the same time period.
You got dirty ice?
Yeah, you got dirty ice. We got dirty trees.
I got sad trees.
Sad trees, dirty ice. What else can we find? So they called the archaeologists, and they're like, "Hey, what happened in 536? You got any evidence?" They.
I guess you would have to look in the caves.
Why?
Because that's the next oldest thing I could think is like there would be evidence in caves, right? Because caves are obviously been around forever.
Yeah, but 536, it's not like people were living in caves then.
No. I'm not saying for evidence of people. I'm saying like for other confirmation of nature being sad.
Of damage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they said how are we going to figure out what happened here? And then so they called archaeologists. They said, "You see anything in 536 AD?" And they're like, "Yeah, not only was the ice dirty and the trees sad, but the people were dead."
What?
They were like, "Yeah, that." So here's what happened. So they found some letters. There was a historian who was alive in 536 AD, and a few years after the fact, he was writing about his experience in 536 AD. And here's a direct quote. He said, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness. It was like the moon during the whole year." And then there was another quote that said that the sun was like a light blue shade in the sky. And then there was another letter somewhere where it said that it was noonday and we couldn't see our shadows. And we marveled at the fact that we couldn't see our shadows. And it was like this for over a year.
It was just dark?
Yeah, it was. Remember that eclipse that we had?
Yeah.
It did that, but it stopped. It just froze. It was like a disc that was.
So are they suggesting that something blocked out the sun for a year?
Essentially. And so this really stumped scientists because they were like, "What?
What
happened?
Sense.
Yeah. What's going on?" And so a lot of theories started to come up. Everything from volcanoes to comet strikes to tidal waves. I think I mentioned all these earlier.
To see peoples.
What they ended up landing on was there was a volcanic eruption in 536 AD in Iceland. And it was so severe that it spewed so much ash into the sky that it literally blacked out the sun for 18 months. And
no way.
Worldwide, there was a fog around the whole planet because this was so severe. And it's evidenced by worldwide the rings on the trees and the ice sheets on both poles were covered in like this layer of soot.
Layer of what?
Soot.
Okay.
It was just dirty. And then everybody in these, like the archaeologists, they had these writings, but they never thought much of it because they didn't connect the dots. Like it was, oh, hey, this person studying Rome found this letter about it was really dark once. And then there was someone running in China who was like, yeah, this guy talked about it being really dark once. And then they connected them all together and were like, oh, this was all the same time.
Yeah.
And so what they think happened was obviously like that eruption happened and it created this fog that made it dim. But as a result, the temperature in the summers dipped by 36 degrees Fahrenheit. So,
wow.
Needless to say, crops struggled.
Yeah.
Everything struggled because they didn't have.
So the trees weren't the only thing that was sad.
Yeah.
The corn was sad.
We got sad little corns. Yeah, that's when baby corn was invented.
Was invented? Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, hey, we could just make it small.
So I just want to confirm that you think that people were like, we should just make small corns.
Yeah, well, they were growing corns, normal corns.
Corns.
And that year, they couldn't grow all the way because it was too cold. So they just grew little baby corns. And they were like, we could still eat them. And they're like, hey, that's not half bad. Let's make those again next year when it's warm again. Only it wasn't warm again for another like 15 years. But
15 years?
Yeah, so it was exasperated because it wasn't
because of all their cars.
There's so much emissions. Yeah, so this got us exasperated because there was that eruption, right?
Yeah.
This is in 536 AD. Overnight, it stopped. It never ended. The nights didn't. There's no more day. And then the fog was worldwide.
Okay.
Dipped the temperatures, and then it took a long time for things to spike back even as the fog began to clear. Well, what they discovered is that years later, 540, 4 years later, there was another volcanic eruption in Europe.
Can't catch a break.
And then a bunch of fog, close to as severe as the other one.
Okay.
And then in 547, there was another volcanic eruption in Europe, I believe.
Oh, my gosh.
And because of that, it just kind of left the climate in this
What do you
spot.
think that would do to us today?
It would be pretty cold.
Well, I mean, do you think we've got the equipment and technology to, like, purify air? Or, like, because people
Like
had
clear
to,
away the...
not clear away, but I'm saying, like, people couldn't live in that. Like, people
good
just
question,
live
yeah.
with it being...
Yeah, they did.
They just lived in volcanic ash.
Yeah, they didn't have a
And they
choice.
just breathed it in. Yeah. I know what I'm saying.
yeah.
But surely that killed them.
I mean, yeah, surely a lot of them. Yeah, for sure.
What, some people who are just tough could, like, just make it through? Like, yeah, I mean, it weeded out the weak ones for sure. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Do we have any writing about the people living there?
I mean, a lot of people survived it, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, maybe they wore masks. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I haven't thought about that.
Hey, thank you again for listening to this episode. Making sure that you don't miss one in the future, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You'll get an alert when we drop a new episode. And if you want more, if you want something a week early, you want to be part of our Discord, more access to us as creators, you can support this show on Patreon. It helps us go a long way. Nothing that we're doing is possible without our Patreon supporters. If you want more information about that, please text TILLN to 66866. Thank you so much for being here.
I mean, we probably all wear masks.
Do you think we would still do our podcast if the world was ending and the sun didn't come out anymore?
I mean, we would have to shine a light in the darkness. What is this?
This is my flashlight.
I thought you were going to give me nuts, and so I went up for them.
You know what happened to me the other day that I was really mad about? Where was I? I did a show. Afterward, went to go shake the guy's hand as he's coming up to the stage. And he just didn't do it. So in front of everybody, I got snubbed.
Did he see it?
I think so. I think he saw it and went, and just kept going, you know? And I was like, all right, man.
Did you offend him?
No, I
before?
slashed his tires in the parking lot after before I left. I was like, oh, I'm not going to let you treat me like that. In front of everybody? In front of everybody.
In front of everybody? Come on.
I filled his car with volcano ash.
You're not going to see the sun for 10 years, bro.
Yeah, dude, have fun with
10 years.
Yeah. Is this volcanic ash? Where did you get this?
Oh, there's an Amazon seller who sells it by the 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be pretty severe today still.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Whatever.
Anyways.
What do you think?
So there was obviously the crop failure problem.
Yeah.
So people were
Starving.
hungry. People
Yeah.
were starving. And I'm sure you're probably right. There was probably a lot of people who were dying of like respiratory stuff.
Yeah. Respiratory stuff.
Yeah. There was also a war that was going on in the middle of this that continued. So that was pretty bad. So this whole season was tough.
There's a war happening?
Yeah, there was a war.
What
It was
if the
Gothic
volcano
War.
was just one of the sides of the war being like, we're going to make this really inconvenient for the other side?
It was like the United States Army.
Yeah.
They're like, we figured out how to make volcanoes erupt.
Yeah. We didn't figure out how to make it just affect you, though. So
Yeah. It's going to be all of us.
sorry to the
fog of war.
Sorry, trees.
That's why they were sad. They felt betrayed.
Yeah.
They're like, it was our own army. And so the volcanoes made it a pretty bad situation. There was
But
obviously...
that's not the only thing that happened. There's more?
Yes. And then, so then it was the first bubonic plague happened.
Oh, no. So there's a plague,
Yeah.
volcano ash,
Yeah.
a war going on.
A war going on. And now, I don't know if you remember learning about the bubonic plague. It was serious. So serious they named it after the emperor, Justinian. So that's a good thing to be remembered for. They call it the Justinian plague. And the estimate is that a third to half of the population died in this plague.
Wow.
And it was pretty peculiar because the way it always...
Of Earth?
Yeah. And it's peculiar because the way it started is you would get like this lesion on the palm of your hand, and then within a few days you'd be covered in them, and then you die. And so it was like very severe, highly contagious, and they didn't understand germs yet. And so everyone was just carrying around all these plagued bodies after they died and like throwing them into like the rivers and stuff. It was like, get rid of them, and then they go drink that water and then go hang out, shake hands with people after their sets.
I bet that's why he didn't do it. Which one of us do you think has the plague? Do you think he thought I had it, or do you think he knows he's got it?
He saw your palm and he's like, that palm looks pretty bubonic.
Yeah.
That guy's got a bubonic palm.
You got a plaguey palm, dude.
Keep your plague palm away from me. And it spread super fast. And so it was as if the situation wasn't bad enough already.
Well, I mean, like you couldn't tell if someone had sores on. It's dark outside.
That's why it spread so fast. Is that a bump on your palm?
Oh shoot!
No!
Is that your nose or the plague?
Throw him in the river.
Okay.
And so then, I mean, when you have a situation where a third to half the population dies in a short period of time, that's not good for the economy.
Won't somebody think of the economy? It's hard to do business in the dark.
It's already hard enough.
Yeah, can't sign a contract when my hand hurts from all these sores.
I can't get the trees to do anything.
Yeah,
They're
the
all
trees
so
are
sad.
ticked off of me all the time. You know how hard it is to be around all these passive aggressive trees? Like they're just creating oxygen and they're just like and you're like, oh my gosh, dude. It's like having a teenager in the backseat who's like, oh. Who just like the trees are just begging you to ask what's wrong. They just want you to listen.
Yeah, they just want you to listen. And they're like,
That's the lesson for today,
guys
actually.
got
If you're out on a
ashes
walk,
all
maybe
over
just
me.
go. Why don't you go listen to a tree today?
What are you doing, man? Well,
Yeah.
just listening to this
How are
tree.
you feeling? You know? Is really?
Are you being a tree right now?
I'm being both people.
Yeah, okay.
I
I
go,
wasn't
how
sure.
you feeling?
I tried. That's a
Who are
sad,
you gonna be?
That's a sad tree.
That is a sad tree.
I'm a passerby.
Do you chop down the tree to put it out of its misery?
Yeah. What do? You chop it down or do you water it? I don't know. Like, how do you help a tree?
I don't know. We're not arborists.
I hate this bit so much.
So the trees are sad. There's a war going on. The sky is dark, and people are dying from the plague.
Yeah.
And the economy's in shambles.
And the economy, because you got bad crops.
So you got
you got a war. You got the plague.
You got a 50% death rate.
Yeah.
What's your unemployment rate?
Of just the people who died from the plague, but you got people who I'm sure you're right. I'm sure there's people who were having respiratory problems. I'm sure there was people who were dying in the war.
Right.
And so and then I'm sure there's people who are dying of starvation. And so then you have all these people dying, which meant there was less people to crop stuff.
Less people to crop.
Less people to farm.
Yeah.
Less people to build. Less people to do everything.
I mean, there was less people to food. You know. What are you talking about?
And so the economy completely stalled. And a lot of historians say that this was the shift from the era of antiquity to the medieval era, and namely the Dark Ages, because all of a sudden, pretty much every major...
The Dark Ages.
The sun was dark. So the historians say this was the end of the world for a little bit.
The end of the known world there.
Yeah, at that time, because every major society had historians who talked about how the crops failed, the economies failed, the governments failed, and then it almost went into this kind of tribalistic mentality, just like you would expect. Honestly, I feel like this is probably a very similar situation to what we talked about a few weeks ago in the Bronze Age collapse, where there was this kind of series of factors that in a relatively short amount of time kind of destroyed everything.
Yeah, because what happens is you build a system and you're like, this system works.
Yeah.
But you don't design the system to work when like it relies too heavily on itself. And then with minor disruptions, all of a sudden the whole thing falls apart. You know? Like the same thing with the supply chain issue we've had the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Where it's like all of a sudden these supply chain issues are crippling certain sectors of our economy.
Yeah, exactly. And you had, they started finding, especially in Europe, there would be in these like river deltas on the little island portion in the river in the delta, there would be these forts that people built, and they would build these wood spikes sticking out of the sides of the forts, and they'd have like a camp that they put in that fort because all these people were so used to relying on farming.
Yeah.
When farming didn't exist, they couldn't figure out how to get through the winter. And so what they found was there was a lot of bodies that they suspect were buried during winter seasons because people were starving in the winters because they were able to grow a little bit during the spring and the summer.
Sure.
But once they went to the winter, they were relied almost completely on hunting, and they didn't know what they were doing, and they couldn't keep up with it. And so they would build these little fortresses, and it seems like the reason why that happened is because people were out there sea peopling. And
pillaging and
yeah. And it seems like that gave birth to that medieval era, was that society worldwide. Also, I mean...
Yeah, people built strongholds, and then they, you know... Because you find a place to crop, then you build walls around that croppage.
We were really stretching the word crop today.
Yeah, well, you know, and then and then you build a little bridge over you build your little crop top, right? And so it goes over that, and then.
Speaking of crops, remember?
Yeah, what could this possibly bring up for you?
Yesterday we're in the office, and the YouTube that we use for TILLN.
Oh yeah, did you play that farming game?
I haven't yet. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it recommended some farming game, and so Jaron pulls it up to kind of make fun of it.
Yeah, and I was like, "Look how stupid this is." And Tim was like, "Well, let's watch it though." It's just a farming.
It's farming
simulator.
Yeah, farming simulator. It looks pretty fun.
You're literally driving like a combine.
Yeah.
Back and forth.
Yeah. It looks pretty good.
Don't you have a yard? Why don't you just go?
That's so not fun.
Like doing it in real life?
Yeah, it's hot and slow. But
okay.
But farming simulator, it's pretty fast, and it's in the air conditioning. So, like, I could do your job if it was fast and air conditioned.
Okay.
That's my mentality for anything.
So people were just dying because they couldn't figure out how to store crops from the spring and summer and last for the winter.
Yeah, more than that, it was just they couldn't even grow enough.
Yeah.
Because it was 35 degrees colder in the summer. I mean, your average summer is like 80-something throughout the majority of the world, and now it's 50s.
Yeah.
Like, that's a severe...
That's very dramatic, yeah.
That's a severe dip. And so the crops and the trees and the plants and the animals, they're all sad. And it made everybody else starve. So,
and you can't hunt when the animals are sad.
Yeah.
That just feels...
That feels...
You know? You just see a deer out there just
moping through the woods.
And you're like... You're like empathizing with the deer.
Yeah, you're like, I can't
kill a sad deer.
Yeah, I can't
do it. It doesn't even taste as good.
Yeah, everybody knows sad deer tastes bad.
Yeah.
Sad
That's why you got to
bad.
kill the ones with families. You know?
The happier the deer,
the better the meat. That's why, you know?
Yeah.
That's why you always ask, like, did this cow have a good life?
Mm-hmm. That's why at Bass Pro Shops they sell deer lottery tickets. So you can go give the deer a lottery ticket and let them win.
Like,
and then they've got an extra large check you can hand the deer.
That's why I want
my
favorite deer decoy is the one where the deer is on one knee proposing, right? And so, like, this female deer is having
proposal
just like,
deer.
It's like, what? Killed it.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good deer.
Yeah, they call
it a happy deer.
The deer.
Oh no.
You know, it's good. You can buy it at Bass Pro.
That's a dark joke. I hate that a lot.
So,
yeah. So anyways, most historians say probably the worst time in history to be alive, and then definitely opened up one of the most prolonged seasons of just
worst time to be alive
nothing.
Because too many factors made it almost impossible to, like, you can't form a society in that.
Mm-hmm. And it was still in a spot too where, for the most part, Rome was the only real superpower of the day, and they had just gone through upheaval and been put into a pretty rough situation, and so this really sped up the actual complete collapse of Rome. But because of this, there wasn't really any nation on earth that was very strong and stable, and so because of that, without any stability, they couldn't weather the.
And we got all
storm.
that from a ring in the ice.
Yeah, these guys found just some dirt in the ice, and
they were like,
figured all this
"Oh
out.
man,
I wonder what that's."
do we know
about.
how terrible the world was back then?" You see some dirt in the ice, and you're like, "Whoa,
wow,
what happened that year?"
Yeah, so basically, here's where we're at. We have to decide.
What does 2020's ice look like?
5 through 6, 2020. What's worse? What's worse? If we get a volcano in the next couple of years, we might beat it.
Yeah.
We're on a hot streak right now. We're coming in.
If you're listening,
I wonder
to
how
this
sad our
in
trees
the middle
are.
of your river bunker, right? Somehow you're still getting podcasts.
River bunker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're, you know, sorry that we predicted that. You know,
Yeah,
sorry we spoke that into the world.
we called
Apologize to the trees for me.
Yeah, tell the trees we're sorry.
Yeah. Why don't you lean into a tree? Why don't you lean right up there? Just
Lean up into that tree.
ew, and then just whisper to it. Fiddle off.
What'd you say?
Fiddle off. Please just put me out of my misery and kill me already.
Hey, you made it to the end of the episode. You're probably asleep right now because you let it keep playing. But if you aren't asleep, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you get more videos. And also, if you can't wait for more, we've got plenty of other episodes and highlight clips, just some of our funniest parts, the things we enjoy the most. This show is an absolute blast, and I cannot thank you enough for being here.